Great. Welcome to this week's edition of the speaker series. It was a bit of a surprise, not a surprise. It was hadn't communicated what the topic was going to be. The topic is going to be very focused on the providers on the call. However, I think it's useful for the passes and for DHS to understand the topic because it really talks to how the providers are going to be operationalizing and operating within their organizations. So the topic is, so you got a tech team, now what? We talked a lot early on about forming a tech team, and now that's been done by all of the providers, but in talking to some providers, I still think there's some questions about, well, how should I effectively use this group of people that I recruited? So that's going to be today's topic. When I wrap up, which will be sometime between 11:30 and 11:40, I'm sorry, 10:30 and 10:45, switching time zones in my head there. We're joined by Steve Sutter and Carrie Pinger from Creatability, and they are going to do this week's vendor spotlight. So I know everybody typically sticks around for that. Certainly encourage you to stick around for that because they have a great product and set of services to describe for you. All right, so what is your tech team? I'm talking, so a couple of disclaimers up front. I'm going to be talking really specifically to the tech champions and the provider leaders that are on the call when I talk about kind of how to utilize the tech team, what the tech team's for, how you can leverage these folks. So that's the first thing. Everybody should understand this. I think it's useful information, but when I talk about sort of direct actions, I'm kind of leaning on the tech champions and the leaders with the leadership folks within the organizations. I think the second disclaimer is my provider background is with a large provider in the state of Pennsylvania. It actually operated in 12 states. We were not small, basically. Some of the way I talk about this is going to be biased from a large organization perspective. So if I say something like you should have 10 people on your tech team or something, or maybe between 4 and 10 people on your tech team, and you're a smaller provider, you might lean back in your chair and say, there's 10 people, what? So just keep that in mind. You need to scale some of this down for the size of your organization. So those are my initial disclaimers around this discussion. Other administrative stuff before I start. If you've got questions, I don't mind if you jump in with it verbally. If you want to put a message into the chat with your question, that's great, and I will keep monitoring that and bring those in as needed. But kind of typically how we roll, although I'm maybe more than some other folks, I'm fine with you just interrupting me and asking a question. All right, so the tech team, as you know, providers know, it's part of your incentive program here is building out this group of people to help support you as the tech champion and you as the organizational technology leadership. So this group, as we described to you as you were forming it, includes a multidisciplinary group across your organization from all levels. If you were to ask me, Paul, who should be on my team? I can't answer that question for you. Bluntly, you need people who understand your organization, who are willing to give you open and honest feedback around the program that you're building out, and people from all levels. So we're not just talking about the executive decision makers, the folks who are capable of authorizing big checks and that sort of thing. You really want folks at all levels. So I think in the past I've said, well, hey, you should get your director of finance in. And really the answer is you should have somebody from finance, right? Doesn't necessarily need to be the director, but the conceptual idea is somebody that understands your finance and can contribute from that perspective. Because you want domain experts. especially if you're in a larger organization, right? You as a tech champion cannot have your fingers on the pulse of everything that's happening within your organization. There may be new programs spinning up you're not aware of. There may be new grants that your organization is applying for that you are blind to. There may be a new IT initiative that could enhance or adversely affect the technology that you have in place. And I don't expect, from my perspective, I don't expect anybody in the position of tech champion to know everything that's going on at the organization. By having individuals who have in their job description or an additional item in their job description that they are going to participate in this tech team, you are covering all of those gaps. You are bringing together folks who know what's going on in all aspects of your organization. And they know how things operate within that space. They know how finance operates if they're from finance. They know how IT operates if they're from IT. They know how the program operates if it's a program director or a site supervisor. They know what actually happens at the location if they're a DSP or a DCP might be your terminology. So draw on their knowledge to fill in the blank spaces that you have in your knowledge. You want them to be your eyes and ears, so not just listening to what you're saying and consuming what you're doing. You don't want to go into a meeting with them, and I'll talk about the meeting structure, or suggested meeting structure later in the presentation, but an inefficient tech team meeting would be you going in, telling them what you're doing, and then adjourning. What you really want is, certainly you want them participating, and you want them critically thinking about what you're telling them. So you do want to give some sort of status. You want to say, hey, we're really focusing on this particular program or residential program in the Northwest. And the reason that we are doing this is there's 4 individuals and they could all use sort of a similar type of technology, and it's going to be a relatively easy implementation, and discuss it with them. See if they have any inputs into it. From their perspective, does it make sense? Do they know something about that program and the history of that program that would contribute to the decisions you're trying to make as a tech champion? Are there concerns? Like, potentially that program isn't stable. Maybe that program's had a lot of team turnover recently, so like that HR could fill you in on. So that you're making the best possible decision considering all aspects of the organization. So these folks are the contributors to help you build a sustainable tech program. If I'm a tech champ, my goal is not only to spin up and get through this pilot, my goal is to spin up, get through this pilot, get to cruising speed. So you started at a red light in March or April or June or whenever you signed on, and you've been slowly accelerating, going through shift training. You've been going through the beginnings of your assessment. You've been writing policies and procedures, and you're getting up to your 60 miles an hour or 65 miles an hour. So that April 1st, pilot ends, and you are the 10 providers who, know how to do this stuff now. And you get into that sustainable mode. These folks are getting you up to that sustainable mode. You're making decisions so that you have a long-term, really solid enabling technology program within your organization. And you can reap the benefits, and you can show leadership the great metrics and reports that you of the work that you're doing, and everybody is thumbs up. This is great. So that's the goal. of how you want to leverage your tech team. So this is audience participation section of the event. So who is on your tech team? All of you, all 10 providers, you have submitted your tech team. And I want to know sort of what roles are being filled by those folks. And this is, just shout them out. I'll start filling in. I'll share my screen out here again in a second. I'll just start popping items into the ovals. Who's on your tech team? Anybody?
This is Paul and Brad. We've got a variation of individuals on the tech team. We've got some DSPs. We have an individual served. We have different levels of employees. We are looking for a potential parent guardian, but we don't have one on the team. But that's been an option that we've actually potentially thrown out.
Great. How about other folks? Who else is on your tech team? What roles are they in? Does anybody have any? Oh, go ahead, Amy.
I've got the director of home care, the care coordination manager. So those that are over the home care, and then those that are introducing all the care to the clients. So.
Great.
We have a care navigator marketer kind of position. It's a little bit different than a coordinator. It's a little bit more field agent based at home helpers. And then I'm in government relations personally is one of the hats that I wear outside of this grant project.
Great. Anybody else have some roles that they fill?
This is Kathy at Boast. We have someone from our training department on there because they'll be assisting with training and making sure individuals are getting information. We have an individual from our IT department on there who also works in direct care with individuals. So he brings several perspectives.
Thanks, Kathy.
I also forgot we have a class instructor as well, 2 of them to be exact, that are on ours.
Great. All right, we'll spend another 30 seconds on this. Anybody else want to volunteer any positions that they have?
We have a person-centered planning specialist on our team, director of wellness, and I'm sick and I can't breathe, so I'm done.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry to hear that, Duana. Thank you for your contributing that, though, despite your cold. Wellness, right. Okay. All right, cool. So that's a good list. And kind of the reason I'm doing this is I want all the providers to see who your peers are leveraging, because you may not have thought of some of these positions when you were building out your tech team, whereas others did. And again, your mileage may vary. You may not have a wellness lead. You may not have a trainer instructor available to you, but at least this gives you some ideas of the types of people that should be part of your tech team. So just flipping the script here, you hit on some of the ones. So this is my list. That's what I'm sharing out now. So you just fill those bubbles on a different page. Some areas that I've seen on tech teams before that we didn't mention during our little brainstorming section there. Executive director, or maybe vice president or director of a business line. Site supervisor. If you have business development organization, somebody from business development. I mentioned finance earlier. Just an enthusiastic tech person. Like you just might have somebody who does something whatever in your central services, but they are the person who's always got the latest phone, or they're using the latest app, or they're wondering why the organization doesn't use XYZ. You all have somebody like that, there's no doubt. And so that's Megan celebrating. Hopefully you're leaning on that person, Megan. That person, even if they're not in direct care or kind of in the path of these beneficiaries, they may want to be like actively engaged in this, and they might get excitement and energy out of it. So don't hesitate to go over to your resident tech nerd and tap them on the shoulder and say, look at this cool project we're doing. I have nursing on here. I think that, and you added a lot of great ones as well that I didn't have on my list. So I appreciate the inputs that you were giving. So in general, you'd love people who on the group who are interested in tech, but they don't need to necessarily be. They do need to know their own domain. They do need to know what's going on in their organization, their department. You want team members who get it. And now I know you've already recruited your tech team. Kathy, you asked a question in the chat. Can we add or remove people from our tech team? And you had a specific example. Yes, you should manage this as an active project group, right? And certainly if somebody leaves and you want to backfill that person on your tech team, do so. If somebody's not a great fit for it after a couple of meetings, that's fine. Find somebody who might be a better fit. And Shane, I just wanted to acknowledge, I see your comment as well. So thank you for putting in the fact that you do have a PERS coordinator and a care manager and a DSP supervisor on your tech team. Really appreciate that. But so back to the point on the team members. So you can swap them in and out. So if what I'm saying here about who should be on the team, like these various categories and job descriptions of people, yeah, feel free to edit your tech team as needed. And just back to that point, team members who get it. So you don't want somebody who took the shift training, the intro shift training, the enabling tech ETC course. Patrick's going to dock me 10 demerits for not remembering the name of the course off the top of my head. But anyway, the base five-hour course. If one of your
the basic is the enabling technology credential. And then most of the folks are really benefiting from that integration specialist. That's where they really dig into that. A lot of our folks with the past are doing the navigation coursework. And of course, we have leaders at all of the organizations. So I hope that broad answer kind of caught something there.
No, thank you. I dropped it on the floor and you picked it up for me. Appreciate it.
Thanks. No problem, man.
So the thought is, again, just getting back to this, like who gets it, right? So if they take the shift and they have no sense of excitement, they're a little bit befuddled by it, whatever it might be, they're not interested. That's not necessarily the person that you want from that department. If they take the shift and they can see the possibilities and they can see the necessity of moving in an enabling technology direction, like those are the kind of people you want. They get the fact that this is necessary, that this is the future. And that's going to give you energy, give you influence to really launch this within your organization. All right, so what are they supposed to do? You're probably aware of this already, but this may be for the broader group, the non-provider group, who may not be fully aware of what the tech. Oh, I did not switch my screen. Sorry. Get back to a better screen share. There we are. All right, so your tech team, so the responsibility. So they need to complete some level of shift training. Your tech team should have been on your learner list and taking one of the 4 learner paths that Patrick just defined for us. They should be participating in tech team meetings that occur on a regular cadence. This could be weekly, this could be twice monthly. You need to figure that out. Your mileage may vary in terms of what works best for your organization. You want them continually looking for ways that technology can be used to support your individuals or your staff members. Actually, we have to remember that like the technology that we talk about is also can bolster staff. So keep your eyes and ears open for that. And then you want them providing honest and open feedback. Pretty common example in the provider organization that I worked in, where we had our tech team. I'll just give you I'll just do a side tangent here to explain our tech team. Again, we operated in 12 states, but primarily the tech project was within Pennsylvania. So it was like a subset of our big organization. So part of our tech team was the director of business development. And I'll hit on a couple of these as we go, but also the director of our behavioral health organization and the director of our developmental disabilities service line. And then we had a regional director who was essentially southeastern Pennsylvania. We had an assessment professional, so similar to the shift integration specialist certification, where you learn how to do assessments, right? So this person has had that training and had been doing assessments of tech assessments of individuals for years. So a real expert. It was really helpful to have him on. We actually had somebody from our internal communications organization who was had a lot of knowledge about organizational change. Again, not all organizations maybe have that sort of a role or person, but it was a good opportunity to bounce off of them. How do we introduce this to the organization? How do we introduce technology to a new program and make them aware? How do we best communicate? So that was kind of the role that person served. And then we had some folks from our essential services person, the tech interested person that I referenced earlier, who's just excited about tech. We had one of them on our tech team. And I might be jumping ahead in my presentation a little bit, but yeah, I'm gonna save my next comment until later on in the presentation. But we would meet every 2 weeks and really had good, open, honest discussions about the direction where we were going, who we were focusing on with in terms of beneficiaries, what technologies were working best, what technologies had we heard about that we could possibly implement to help beneficiaries or alleviate pressure on staff, that sort of thing. I think I saw a question come up in the chat. Megan had to drop, okay. Okay, Kathy said if we add someone new to the tech team, they have to have the shift credential training or one of the other levels. So Patrick can correct me here. I don't think we have a requirement that the tech team member has gone through shift training. I would highly recommend it. Right. Because they're going to get the basis of what enabling technology is from the shift training, even if it's just the ETC credential to get them started. I would, it's a no, but you should, if that helps you, Cap.
That's exactly right, Paul.
Thanks, Patrick. All right, so I talked about, we just spent a lot of time talking about the various roles, different departments you might want to tap into. And then, anytime you get a group together for any project, so this isn't just an enabling tech project. This isn't just what we're talking about today, but honestly, I think about as a project manager by profession, I think about, hey, if I get a team together to work on a project, I don't just want domain experts. I actually want different types of people. And so this is just to, again, maybe get some popcorn popping in your brain about just personality levels and the way people approach things, and maybe getting some variation within your group, right? So in my experience, we had a big thinker. So our director of business development, she would conceptualize these big bang projects, and and as a practical project manager, I would just lean back, head on my hands, with 17 questions about, well, we don't have the staff. I don't think we have the staff for that. I don't think we have the money for that. I don't think we have this for that. I don't think we've done this, right? But it's important to have that person who generates big ideas and is a big thinker. So just find that person, whether they're in leadership or whether, whatever level of the organization. It's great to have that person on because they're going to push you forward. We would not have made nearly the traction in my provider organization without our business development lead, because she envisioned stuff, and then we had people who would get to that vision. A bean counter type of a person. It doesn't have to be finance. I know bean counter probably says that. The person who's going to say, yeah, but this is what it would cost. Kind of rein in that big thinker a little bit and put some reality to what you're trying to do. You want to have a communicator, somebody who can take what you're doing, message it out, talk to others within the organization, present to other people, maybe a program, maybe another region in your organization about what this technology is. Somebody who just can talk about it and get people on board. You certainly want to have boots on the ground people, because look, we've all worked in enough organizations for long enough to know that frequently, or at least some of the time, decision makers don't always know what actually happens day to day on the ground. And it's organizational reality. So that's why you want your direct care professionals involved in the tech team, or to at least have a voice and to be made aware of what's happening, because they're going to sit back and they're going to say, well, this is actually how it works. Or they're going to say, wait, you want to bring in 7 devices that all need electrical outlets? And I've worked in this location for the last 7 years, and I can tell you, if I want to plug my phone in, I got to unplug something else. There are no electrical outlets. And that's a real example. That is like real. The only way anybody's going to know that is if they're at that residence every single day. So if you want to plug 7 things in, we got an entirely different conversation we have to have about possibly an electrical upgrade. Perfectly reasonable feedback. Tech geek, kind of talked about that before. Somebody who's like latest version of everything. A savvy politician. Somebody who can navigate, and this again may be more important at larger organizations, but somebody that can navigate the organization. Somebody that understands what levers to press, who the stakeholders are within your organization. Are they fans of enabling technology? Are they resistant to it? Really be able to talk to people from where they're coming from about enabling technology and try to exert some influence. You want an implementer? Maybe that's you as the tech champion. How are we going to get this done? I've heard everybody, and how are we going to make this happen? And then lastly, a connector. Aligning with the organization and making sure somebody has a broad view of the organization. Possibly there's a new grant opportunity, possibly IT is rolling out some new tech that's going to assist you in some way. All right. Steve, I saw your hand up. I wanted to bump back to you.
Yeah, so we have like a half hour to present after you, is that right?
It's 15 minutes actually.
Okay, so
Yeah.
what time would we start?
And I think it's, and hopefully I didn't miscommunicate this to you. I probably have another 3 or 4 minutes. If that's
Okay, then we'll have 15 after that.
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely. Yeah,
Thanks.
thanks, Steve. That's my fault. I might have told you 11:30 or 10:30
Alrighty.
start time.
thank you.
All right. So those are the kind of things that you want to look for on your tech team. And then lastly, how do you make this happen? So down to just like operationalizing the tech team, have that weekly or bi-weekly meeting. Give them a status update. How many assessments did you complete in the last 2 weeks? How many installs have been completed and where and what were they? What did you put in? Was it a bidet? Was it some kitchen utensils? Was it some sensors and monitoring equipment? And then are there any new outcomes metrics? Now, we haven't really gotten to the outcomes metrics discussions. We'll get to that, but you may be tracking the outcomes in a way that you can go back to the team and say, hey, look, we got this, this improvement from these installs. Discuss any new recommendations. So talk about any individuals that they might know of who could benefit from this program. Talk about the assessments that you did for the individuals, what you're recommending. Get input from your tech team on whether or not those seem like a reasonable, or they can ask you questions. Did you consider this? And then finally, the last piece is, spend time discussing new ideas and opportunities. Possibly somebody knows about some new funding that's available. Somebody may have heard about a new vendor and have that sort of a discussion. So you're really keeping your tech team up to date and involving them and pulling out of them their inputs to help grow your program. That is my last slide, but I want to give a few minutes for folks if you have any questions about your tech team that I haven't addressed yet. Okay, no questions. So kind of the last thing, just to give you an example of like one thing we did that was really beneficial. So some of the work in Pennsylvania was outside of the waiver. So we would actually just send in proposals, either from foundations or state level RFPs that were available. Because we had our director of business development on our tech team, she correctly said, basically every proposal that we submit should include a tech budget. Like we should put technology at the forefront of our thinking and make it just a boilerplate section. Not only, we're going to propose this residential behavioral health program, and it's going to have 10 individuals, and they're going to be in these 4 apartments and such, and we are going to assess them and outfit them with appropriate enabling technology. And that became just part of our grant process, our grant writing process, and led to a considerable amount of additional funding because we found some funders who were excited about that. So it becomes, if you are tech forward, if you are an enabling tech forward organization, you're going to find opportunities that are going to differentiate you from other providers who are not tech forward thinking. So I just want to put that out there as like one kind of monumental change that we made that actually helped us fund a lot of the technology. All right, I'm going to wrap there. Thank you, everybody, for your attention. I hope that was helpful to you. I'm going to unshare. And Steve, you can go ahead and share out, and I will hand it off to you.